Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial. We're back with another week in the market. The first day of the week is going to be Tuesday because again today is Labor Day. So we've got a short week. The reason that I want to remind everyone of that is because again, due to the fact that we have a short week, any options that you may be trading on a weekly basis is going to have 1 day less for it to move. So again, that's going to be included in any of the premiums. But just be aware of that because what you may do is think you have 5 days for this to move and in reality 4, and that can be a big difference. What we're going to talk about in this video, as you can see right here on the screen, I am using TD Ameritrade to look at the different economic events that are occurring this week. There's also 4 earnings, or rather 4 companies, 4 earnings in particular that I'm going to be watching, as well as again, what is the strategy that we're going to be looking at employing for some of these companies that may be selling off. So not necessarily the earnings plays, but some of these other companies. So without further ado, when we're looking at the economic events, as you can see here on the screen, we've got the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index. I hold nothing in terms of a stock that is going to be moving off of this. This is a good indicator to watch. However, this is not going to move the market. And like you can normally see, normally the market movers occur at 8:30 in the morning, not 6 a.m. Consumer credit is again another indicator that's really not going to move anything, but it may grab some headlines on CNBC. The reason, by the way, that we look at all of these headline indicators is really jobs, as well as sales. Again, I want to highlight what happened on Friday. We had a monster beat on the unemployment rate. This was prior to the month before, which I believe was 10.4%. So a huge drop. And you have to remember that 2 states in particular, New York as well as California, are not fully reopened. So when that happens, I anticipate that these 2 metrics are going to drop pretty significantly. And those are huge market movers, which leads me into the Wednesday job openings report, which is again important. That may have an impact, but it's not necessarily the big mover. Crude oil inventories, watch oil. This is one that's been very volatile right now, as well as the price has been fluctuating. Inventories have been very, very high because people have basically filled out everything due to the fact that no one was traveling during the coronavirus pandemic peak. On Thursday, we have the initial and continuing claims. Those are going to be the big movers. PPI and core PPI have an effect. However, we really haven't been watching those in terms of actually waiting for the market to move as a result of any of those numbers, whereas the continuing claims and the initial claims have been a big deal and continue to make the move. Wholesale inventories, natural gas inventories, not so much. And then the consumer price index, or the CPI, as well as the core CPI. Again, important. They do use this as a measure of inflation, but not really going to move the market for us. What it may move is the market for gold. So I am going to be watching this one probably based off the PPI index, but I may make a play on gold, and in particular probably GLD or SLV, which is the silver ETF. So gold and silver ETF, I may make a play just as a what if scenario for these. So that's some of the economic indicators. Again, not a lot this week. Last week was the big numbers with the unemployment rate for the prior month. What I am going to be looking at this week in particular is going to be earnings plays. And there are 4 companies that I'm going to be watching in particular. The first of which is Lululemon. The reason that I really like Lululemon, as you can see, it's dropped pretty significantly. And I think that it may have farther to go. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Lulu long term. My concern with them is they've had this monster run up during a time period where a lot of companies just have not been doing well. And you can see that here. They did make the purchase of Mirror, which is a company that does the workout equipment that you like hang on your wall, and is basically a personal trainer. And I like that aspect of the company. I think that they're really pushing for growth and innovation. But at the end of the day, they were not selling nearly as much as they were 6 months prior, 8 months prior. So I'm going to be watching that one. I like the idea that it may go farther down. And again, that may just be part of the broader trend in the market this week. So I'm going to be watching LULU in particular. The announcement comes tomorrow after hours, so I may make that play tomorrow morning. The other company that's in a similar boat in terms of the run up this calendar year is Work, which is the Slack Technologies. You can see that they haven't had as much of a run up. I'll put it on the 6 month. They've kind of traded flat, and the reason for that is because they haven't really been able to get into the same space that Microsoft and Zoom have continued to do. And I am interested to see what their earnings tomorrow, because Zoom just had an awesome earnings report just last week, and I think, or rather 2 weeks ago, and I think that that could be a factor here. I like some of the upside here for a quick flip, but we'll see. Again, they normally have pretty expensive options pricing, so that may be something where I throw $10 at a far out of the money call if that's available, and we can see what happens there. So going to be watching Slack that way. And then the other ones that I'm going to be looking at is NCNO as well as BigCommerce Holdings. The reason that I like both of these is they are IPOs this calendar year. And you can see that NCNO in particular has had a lot of volatility over the past 3 months. They opened right at $72, and this is an IPO that initially priced going for $26. Then they upgraded it to $31, and they opened at $72. And you can see that they've kind of gone all over the place at this point in time. I like them because they are very volatile, but the options reflect that. So this may be a case where, again, we get a dose of reality or they blow it out of the water. It'll be interesting to watch, and because of that additional volatility and kind of the unknown factor, because this will be the first time they've announced earnings as a publicly traded company, I do want to be watching that. The other one in the same boat is BigCommerce Holding. They have been kind of in the exact same spot. Again, they have not been around as long, but you can see that there's still all of that volatility. A lot of this was that run up to earnings this week. I think I may play the put side of this. Again, it's not necessarily have anything against the company. They've just got a lot of upward momentum, a lot of volume, that with earnings, particularly if it's something a little bit more realistic than the bulls have placed, then it may come crashing back down. So let's go look at how we can actually potentially play these. So what I have here on the screen is Lululemon. Again, this is how they've been trading over the past week. Let me just, for short purposes, as you can see, just over the past 3 months, they've kind of been just on this steady upward trend. Year to date, it's just they've rocked and rolled. Again, they've dropped pretty significantly from the high point a week and a half ago, but just like a lot of other stocks during this sell-off, you can see that they're still at high levels. What I'd like to do potentially is go in on the put side, and what I'm looking at doing, and I'm going to showcase how you can profit off this, is not necessarily the weekly and just look how expensive these are, but I'd like the end of September on the put side, and I am going far out of the money for these. And for $150, there's the potential play that has some time. Again, I'm not necessarily looking for this play right here for it to actually drop all the way down, although the idea behind that is there is a lot of incentive. But again, look at the chart here. They have not been under 200s except for the drop. What I'd like to see occur with this trade is some of this continued momentum of the sell-off. So there's two ways that we could play this. And one is this continued downward trend for selling off, but all we need is a $10 move, a $20 move, which for the stock is really only about 3%, 4%. If we can get some of that momentum, especially if we trade on a candle that is a big down, then we can turn that 150 into as much as $500 and get out of it. This is a trade that, despite the fact I'm looking for the end of the month, I am planning on only holding it for this week. So on a different side of that, because this is the LULU one, I'd also like to look at Work or Slack Technologies for something similar, although just to highlight this, again, they are very expensive for their options prices. So for me to be able to say kind of right at the money where they're at right now, we're still looking at $300, which is a little bit better than it was. What I'd like to do is something like $35 by the end of the month. Again, about $150, but there's a lot of opportunity here to get right back to kind of where they were in terms of really just a week and a half ago. So I like the opportunity there. I like the play. We've got a little bit of time on this one. And I like the potential for upside on the earnings report. So both of these companies announce earnings tomorrow. This is how I'm planning. I'm playing both of them. I may try the spread side of it, but we'll see. So interested in watching both of these companies report. BigCommerce or BIGC as well as NCNO are going to be a little bit different just due to their volatile nature. Those I don't want to throw something up here on the screen at this point in time just because I don't know how I'm going to play them yet. But there's still a lot of opportunity there. They're just more volatile, so it's going to be more spur of the moment. But I'm going in with the idea of I want to watch for the debit spread, for the call option, but probably the debit spread. So a lot of moves. It's going to be a big week because, again, we still had the market sell off at the end of last week. That may continue this week, or everyone may pour back into tech. We don't know. If you have some stocks that you're watching, some plays that you'd like to see, please drop those in the comments below. And if you found this content helpful and enlightening, please drop a like and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.